Hello everybody and welcome. This is the Midnight McBride Show with me, your host Midnight McBride, and this is episode number 7, and this is called Horses for Courses. And tonight I'm joined by Debbie Henderson.
Hello.
Hi Debbie. And Katherine Beaumont.
Hi Patrick.
Now Debbie and Katherine, the reason I've called this show Hands on Heavy Horses is because you both have a huge involvement with horses and it's a big part of your life. Now Debbie with Hands on Heavy Horses.
Yeah.
And Katherine with Meditate with Horses. Now, you've done a show with me before, Katherine.
Yeah.
So, at Salford City Radio. So, I know quite a lot about your story and your journey. On this show, what we try to do is, I don't cover everything we've done on the radio again, because some of the people that are watching this will listen to the show. But also, some people won't. So, we talk about some of the things that have happened, part of your journey to this present moment. So we'll start with you, Katherine. Tell us a little bit about Meditate with Horses. What is it?
It was a concept that I developed after having a riding accident.
This is where you broke your pelvis, didn't you? Is that right? Yeah.
So basically the horse reared, fell on me and smashed my pelvis. So there was quite a few months where I couldn't walk or ride. And I started sitting in the paddocks. I'd been training in yoga and meditation, and I started sitting with the horses in the paddocks and meditating. And I noticed their behaviour change quite profoundly around me. And it then became, after noticing this and it having an effect on me, it then became a journey of trust. And I re-established my relationship with the horses after becoming really frightened of them after the accident and not being able to walk. I re-established it, but on a completely different paradigm. So it wasn't about what I could make them do or where we were going, or we weren't sort of pedaling to the medal, anything like this. It was just about being with them and establishing this trust and connection. It taught me a lot about myself, and then started introducing other people to it.
So you started to interact with them in a whole different way, really, and they became your friend rather than a master and servant role where the horse was, underneath you. You sort of interacted with it and meditated with the horses, maybe appreciated them more as a sentient being, as an equal.
I mean, equal but different.
Yes,
but still a being within its own right. Not something that we have particular dominion over, or that is there to serve our perceived leisure purpose. But being in its own right. Perhaps you could say that they have the physical prowess and we have the creative prowess, and together it's a good partnership if you're wanting to ride them. I mainly use them now as therapy horses, and I say use them, but they choose to come and do this because they like doing it.
So Debbie, tell us a little bit about Hands on Heavy Horses and how that possibly came about and what it is.
Yeah, well, my partner and I bought a farm in Windermere about 7 years ago, and we wanted to... we discussed before we bought the farm what kind of rare breeds we would have. And in a previous life, I used to work with horses, so I always knew that I wanted to come back to that at some point in my life. And we were very blessed. We bought this beautiful farm, and as well as the sheep and the cattle, we were able to get some heavy horses.
These are Clydesdales, is that right?
Yeah, big guys, big feet, beautiful, gentle giants. And they were just our recreational, part of the family, really. But I realised that they started to maybe contribute. They needed to contribute toward their own keep, because they're not cheap animals to keep. Yeah. So I came up with this idea that rather than just being a trekking centre, I wanted to do more than that. I wanted people to come and share the horses and have the experience of grooming them and picking feet out, and the things that you would never get to do at a normal riding trekking centre. So I created these half or full day experiences where people come to our farm and share the horses and get to do all those behind the scenes things, hands-on heavy horses.
Yeah, see, I've experienced a retreat with you, Katherine, at your venue, and I did a little talk on meditation, and we did a meditation session, and I meditated with the horses for the first time, which was a beautiful experience, wonderful. But then Hands on Horses is very different.
Yes.
It's a different approach. But now you've come together
and collaborated.
And you now do something called full circle retreats.
We do. And the full circle was really for me coming full circle from, in my youth being into horses and then having to put that on the back burner. Life took over, family, children, as they do. And then coming to a point where we could come back to working with horses and hence full circle retreats. And I'd heard about meditating with horses and I'd started to tentatively have a go myself, but I didn't have the skills. And thankfully I heard about Katherine and so Katherine started to come and was teaching me to meditate with my horses, and we were sitting in a field with the sun was streaming down and the view, and it was such a magical experience. And I said, we need to do this. This is a thing we need to.
Who hasn't heard of Katherine? You've been on every TV programme going at the minute, I think, haven't you? I think last time I saw you, you were doing various television programmes, weren't you? Tell us a bit about those, Katherine.
Well, we had some media interest at Full Circle Retreats, didn't we?
You were on the news, weren't you?
Yeah. The BBC and Border all in the same week. It was amazing.
Which was really nice. We had a journalist from the Telegraph came to do a meditation with Otto.
And the Times.
And Sam. And the Times, yeah.
Otto's one of the horses, isn't
it?
Yeah. We've had some journalists come and have some quite profound experiences actually meditating with the horses. One said that he felt like he was an infant being held by his mother for the first time, and he hadn't thought about that for eons and years and years and years. And it was just because he was sitting on the floor next to this giant horse, and the horse was resting his muzzle on his head, and he felt like it was some kind of guardian, and it took him right back to. So it's quite a healing experience, that sort of embodiment of being an infant and being held by your mother.
I'm going to tell the viewers a little bit about the synchronicity of why you both sat in front of me today, because I was at Manjusri doing a retreat, which was a few weeks ago, say 3 weeks ago, and I just spoke to you the week before and mentioned about possibly coming on here. When I went to this retreat, for the first time ever, I didn't make it to a single session, which I'd never done before. The session that I should have been in, so I shouldn't have been where I was, and I wasn't in the session. We were in the wrong place at the wrong time. You'd never been to Manjusri before.
No.
And we bumped into each other at Manjusri just after we discussed about doing this show, and I got to meet yourself, Debbie, and I've talked about it, I think, on at least 2 of the shows prior to this, saying about the synchronicity and alignment involved in that interaction is remarkable.
Well, it felt like a meant-to-be moment, didn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, it really did.
So, Debbie, we discussed when we did the pre-show chat, and you said you were okay to talk about some of these things, but you've obviously had quite a traumatic ride to this point also, and that would include, your mother with mental health problems, and your father passing, and your sister having breast cancer as well. Is that right? Maybe tell us a bit about that journey, because I think it's very interesting and poignant to find out why you've arrived in this situation, where you're working with the horses and trying to help people.
Yeah. So the first difficult thing that happened to me was my father passing away when I was 21, and that was a huge shock. My mum wasn't coping as well as we all assumed she was, and after several years she felt she couldn't cope anymore and attempted suicide, which was, that was another massive shock, because I hadn't seen the signs. I'd had no experience of mental health issues at that point, so I didn't see it coming. And my mum had a really difficult journey after that. She was diagnosed with bipolar, so there's been many ups and downs. And then the next major thing was about 10 years ago, my sister, with my mum, we'd always had this partnership of my sister and I, and we supported each other. And so when my sister passed away, that was massive, because suddenly I felt very alone. And on the day my sister died, my mum had, understandably, another massive breakdown. So it felt that I lost my mum and my sister on the same day. And even though my mum is still with me and she's still alive, I really lost my mum on that day. And that was tough.
I think you'll find, I know from personal experience, I had a nervous breakdown about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and then a couple of times I've been very close, and then about a year ago I had another breakdown. And once you've had a breakdown, once the system fails, once you've been to the edge and, you know, you can't function properly, you then have to pay real close attention to yourself because you're more susceptible to it. Once you've been overstretched or broken or whatever expression you want to use, but once you've been there, you can get there a lot easier. But the signs are there. You've just got to learn to interpret them, because when I look back at my first breakdown, I had so many things were telling me to stop what I was doing and I didn't listen.
But that's why these things are good, because if you were being normal, you would push on through, and you've really got no sense of how you're walking through the world and how you're affecting other people or anything. But these kind of cracks let the light in. And if you are well adjusted to a world that's actually profoundly sick, then there's something wrong.
Bingo, exactly. Yeah. I say that actually having a breakdown is, for most people, part of the spiritual process. You've got to go through a period where you think, everything I'm doing is wrong, why am I doing this? And you take a really big step back, an introspective, a look at your life and make some changes. Because if you don't, if I'd carried on the way I was, I'd be dead now. Yes. You know, that's a fact. I would be, you know, because I took a lot of drugs and I was violent and I was mixing with the wrong people and everything you could do, you know, and I didn't look after myself either, you know. So sometimes...
you were a product of society.
Yeah, and I always say to people, which is why I like what you said there, is if you fit into this madhouse, there's something wrong with you. If you haven't got problems, there's something wrong with you, because if you fit into this, and it's a very warped world we live in at the minute, you know, if you fit into this and everything's fine and hunky-doky, then there's something you need help.
And the thing is that none of us are okay, you know. We're all flying towards the boneyard. We all experience death in families and loved ones. We all get sick, we lose our pets, you know. None of us are okay. We've just got to kind of re-establish community and connection, and this is what Debbie and I are trying to do, is when we get people together in group meditations and with the horses and in nature and on the farm, and really kind of back to basics, to us as pack animals and herd animals and creatures that need that connection and unity, then it's really a very fundamental healing, I think, that people go through and need and profoundly need.
I find it really fascinating that you both arrived in part of a healing vehicle, a healing process with horses for both yourself and for other people as well. You both arrived there, and I find it fascinating how you came together as well to do the full circle retreats. You actually,
another meant to be moment, without a shadow of a doubt.
Maybe tell us about that, you know.
Well, I was very nervous about saying the M word, if I'm being honest. I thought people would think I was having some kind of midlife crisis. So I was being...
The meditation
word?
Oh,
yeah,
really?
Definitely. I was really nervous about discussing it with people. I mean, my partner had no idea I was meditating with the horses.
Dirty secret meditator.
I was.
Some people can think you're part of a cult.
I know.
So he would walk in the barn and I would leap into action, you know, whereas I'd just been sitting very quietly. It was very funny.
I used to do it when I first became a Buddhist. I wouldn't tell anybody I was a Buddhist. I used to go to the Buddhist centre and I had a route planned down all the back streets to find it, to get to the front door and pop out near the front, because I was terrified of anybody seeing me, you know, so I can appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I was apprehensive about the whole M word. And then a completely random conversation with somebody, I thought, I'm going to just test the water here. And I started to explain to this lady what I was doing. And I said, I think I'm doing it all wrong. I don't know if the horses are responding right. And I sort of know what I should be doing, but I'm not quite sure. She said, I know the very person you need to meet. And she gave me Catherine's contact details. And that was it. And
Perfect.
Catherine came. I rang her up and she was actually on a skiing holiday. And I was an hour into the conversation before I realised she was abroad on holiday. And I just thought, I really know we're going to get on really well. So it was great. And Catherine's had to come in on a weekly basis. And I said to her, the dream is to get the horses to lie down. That's what I want. I want to be lying in the fields with the horses flat out, snoring their heads off. And that's where we got to. I
used to be terrified of horses. I always used to say, because I was a violent man, and I always used to say, I don't like being in the presence of anything I don't think I can knock out. That's how I thought at the time, you know.
Out.
Yeah, in a completely different way.
But because they were bigger than me, I didn't, you know, I was very uncomfortable around horses, animals, and I think animals can sense when you're frightened, and for that reason I couldn't go near dogs for years because they knew I was on...
They mirror you, yeah.
They knew
but
I was on
more than that, they
pins
can see you.
I unsettled the dog.
They see you.
They hold a mirror up to you.
They do.
And you don't like that
No.
if you're not in a good place.
No, exactly. Now I just go up to any dog and I can't remember. I honestly couldn't tell you the last time a dog ever barked at me, but in my youth, if I went anywhere near a dog, the dog would freak out.
Yeah.
So they must have felt this tangled energy that was coming out of my mind at the time.
Off in waves.
Yeah, exactly. So you're a Bolton girl.
I am a Bolton
Debbie.
girl. I'm so chuffed to have been able to come back tonight, back to Bolton, because when I left home at 16, I went to work in Edinburgh. My parents then retired to the Lake District while I was working away. So home shifted, and I've never really had the opportunity to come back. So it's really exciting to be back in Bolton tonight.
Yeah. I'd just like to say, you said that you used to have an interior design shop.
I did.
If I had to guess by your appearance what you did in a former life, I would say an interior designer.
Okay.
Because of, you've got the scarf on and the dots and everything. Yeah. So
it's really weird actually, because I used to have an
interior
interiors business.
you're clones.
We are. Apart
Yeah.
from the fact I'm short and you're tall.
So
could I just say something about how we sort of the concept of full circle retreats really developed, because I think it's really interesting. Because the full circle retreats, like my meditate with horses sessions are purely meditating with horses, but full circle retreats are creative retreats. So there is yoga and horse meditation. The horse meditation really on the retreats is a means to an end, which is connection with the horses, but it's all part of sort of a richer experience. And we came up with the name of Full Circle Retreats after discussing this psychotherapist called Robert Bly. He'd written this thing that he basically said that when you're a child, you're born this kind of beautiful 360-degree ball of light. And as you go through school and work and life, and when life knocks you down, teachers shame you, parents humiliate you, or say you're too effeminate, you're too angry, you're too this, you're too that. It's like slices of you are taken away, and you throw them in what Robert Bly called the long black bag. And you exile parts of yourself and then end up dragging them over your shoulder, and this bag gets longer and longer, and you're kind of hauling it around.
I love that. When I teach meditation, I always get everybody to visualise they're carrying a bag of bricks with them, and they come in the room and they have to put the bag down before they come into the room. But
when you get to you can sort of get to the age where you get married, say that's 28, and there'll be two little wedges of people standing next to each other at the altar, not really knowing who they are. And you get to sort of 40 and you want to open the bag and you want to look inside it, but you're a bit frightened because all these things have been exiled for such a long time. But then a lot of people want to go on this journey to try and come full circle, find out what's in the bag. And sometimes a lot of what's in the bag is your very creativity. You've kind of thrown it away, but it was the kind of the essence of you, that ball of light, and in there is your creativity. So in order to access your true potential and creative self, you need to look at what's in the bag, and then you come full circle. And full circle retreats is about getting in that space where you can sit with things that are stuck in your body, in your unconscious or whatever, and you can feel into them, get underneath them, and find the really juicy stuff underneath. And then you do a lovely creative workshop. So then once your creative juices are flowing, once you're really feeling your true essence and your unique, shiny creative self, then you can go into your creative writing workshop, your painting and drawing, your felting, your photography, or whatever it is that Debbie's got set up on that particular day. So it's a really lovely way to sort of find the real you.
I remember when you spoke at New Horizons, Katherine, you explained a little bit about the science of how about the nervous system of the animal and yourself when you meditate with the horses sort of sync. Maybe tell us a bit about the actual science of meditating with horses, how it works.
Well, horses are excellent animals to work with. I think all animals relax you. I think they're all healing.
Yeah.
But
all sentient beings are fully present except moi.
Yeah.
Except us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But horses are herd animals and they're prey animals as well. So they're very biological functions that keep them safe, make them really adaptable to healing us. So for instance, when they're in a herd, they're able to synchronize their central nervous system so that if one herd member notices danger, its heart rate will go up and the rest of the herd will mimic that heart rate within a sort of picosecond. They'll just know and they'll run. It's almost like they're telepathic, but they're not. They're just extremely sensitive. So it's like dogs can detect panic attacks now, they know, and they can detect diabetes and cancer.
Yeah.
So horses can detect hormone changes, they can detect pulse rate changes, they can detect a heart rate from 4 meters away. They know if your cortisol levels are up, they know if your oxytocin is increasing. So in this way, a horse will tell you exactly where you are and how you are, even if you don't know yourself. Because the thing about us is that we lie an awful lot.
Yeah.
Patrick, how are you? I'm fine.
I'm great. Yeah.
and I'll be like, okay, because that's what I want to hear, because I actually don't want to know about all the stuff that's going on underneath, which you're shoving down and suppressing so that you can pretend you're fine, so that we can function in a society where we're all lying to each
just
other.
Get through the day.
Yeah. And then in order to survive that, we consume things, and we consume more. And we're addicted to lots of things like food and buying things and cars and all these things that are actually sort of destroying us. And the way to kind of distance ourselves from this kind of addictive cycle that we've got into is to really come back to the very basic nature of who we are and how we are, and where is our connection. So where is our connection to nature, to other beings, to each other? It seems to be lost. Being around horses shows you exactly how you're walking through the world and how people are responding to you. Because if a horse won't come near you because you're too angry, then you'll know. But in what we do, people really want the horses to connect. And when I say connect, their body language changes. They want to be close to you. They lean on you. Yeah. They lie down with you. You can lie on the floor with them. You can lie on them. You know, it's amazing.
When I did the retreat with you,
and
we meditated with the horses, in my mind, I just didn't think it was going to happen for me, you know, because even though at the time I was teaching meditation and had a very strong meditation practice at the time, I just thought, this animal's going to suss me. He's going to know. And I meditated, and it did, and it worked, and it was beautiful. And I got to I could go put my head on the horse, and the horse became very sort of subdued and relaxed. It was beautiful, you know.
I remember you were sitting right next to Eddie's feet, weren't you? And he wasn't moving, and you had sort of leaning your head on his leg, didn't you?
Yeah. It was a beautiful day. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was good. So, Debbie, how come you ended up going from Bolton to Windermere? How did that happen?
So I left school at 16. I wanted to work with horses. So I went to a riding school in Edinburgh and trained for 2 years in stable management and teaching horse riding. So I became qualified to teach. And then from there, I went to work for a family who had horses and 5 children. And it was actually cheaper for her to have me living in than it was to send the 5 children to riding lessons. So we bought a couple of ponies and I lived with them for 2 or 3 years. And I was sort of like Girl Friday, nanny, you name it, I did it. And then my mum, I think I got to about 20 and my mum said, don't you think you should get a real job now? Fair enough. I see the point. So I came to live in the Lake District, and then I changed direction at that point, and I got into retail.
Yeah, it's funny how you both have had this previous relationship with horses before you came back. Your stories are so similar in lots of ways, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know.
I think once you do start trying to look at yourself and heal as you get older, you always go back to the things that you loved as a child, which is why, again, full circle.
So I thought we'd start, Katherine, with possibly telling us a bit about your new chap called Ben and what he does.
Well, Ben's a fascinating guy who, like me, teaches people to explore nature and heal through nature and use nature as an adventure playground. So I use horses, he uses trees and waterfalls and rivers and cold water immersion.
Is that where you sort of picked that up from? Because
yeah,
you had a spell where we kept seeing pictures of you with no clothes on, jumping in pools of water.
yeah, that was through that influence, really. Yes. But it's a really fantastic way of sort of building resilience, and it's good armour against anxiety and depression, and just wonderful to be immersed in nature like that. Ben also does extreme tree climbing. He's been climbing trees since he was a little boy, and he's a climate activist. So recently he climbed up Big Ben.
I've seen a picture of that. Yeah.
And he was hanging off the top of Big Ben for a while.
How did he get up though? Rock climbing gear, basically.
Not really. I think he did have a rope, but he didn't use it too much, and the police kept asking him to kind of
get down.
Get the hell down. but also to, I don't know what the terminology is, but to hook on with his rope. But a lot of the time he was just wobbling up and down the scaffolding and in his bare feet, and no ropes, and so he's in court soon for that.
Right. But they don't usually go too heavy with stuff like that. They don't like it, but I don't think you're looking at serious bird. I think.
No. Well, the other Extinction Rebellion members that have been to court so far haven't got any custodial sentences or anything like this. No. A lot of judges are recognising now that it's a necessary response to the science that we're being told on a daily basis in the media, in the mainstream media now, and everything.
I think for myself, it's like somebody that takes drugs. For me, I'm very clear on this, very, very direct about it. They're not a criminal, right? You may be having fun, you may have a problem, you may need help, but you're not a criminal. Yeah. If you're taking drugs, you're just not.
Well, you may be self-medicating because
exactly,
you're suffering.
And the way I judge a crime is: are you endangering or harming somebody else? Right, that is can be a criminal act.
Yeah,
he's not endangering anybody else.
Well, the things that are endangering people
is protesting against
is climate chaos and the people that are committing ecocide through spewing out emissions, whether it be corporate activity or just business as usual for everybody that the governments aren't intervening with or doing anything about. So to scream loudly like that from the top of a big, tall public building, I think absolutely is a necessity. That's what he's been up to recently.
I think on the flip side to that, Debbie, something that was supposed to help the environment and stop the erosion of the banks of Windermere, reducing the speed limit to 10 mile an hour, put you out of business.
Well, it did, but again, there was a lot of lies told about that.
Was there? I remember it very well. I remember it happening.
The irony of the erosion to Windermere shoreline is that it's actually the big steamers that go up and down 15 times a day, about 5 or 10 minutes. And the only reason I know this is because my mum and dad had a house just right by the shoreline, and we used to see it. Oh, here it comes. And about 15 minutes after those
there's a wake,
there's
isn't there?
A huge wake that comes in. That was causing the erosion. Speedboats zoom across the surface of the water. They hardly give a wash. So actually, that was... It was all very political at the time, and I appreciate the fact that people wanted a quieter lake district, but there was only one lake that you were allowed to water ski on. It was Windermere, and it had been a gentleman's agreement for years and years, and it did put a lot of people out of business. But it was 20 years ago, and everybody's moved on. But it was at the time, it was a big ordeal.
I remember I had a narrowboat and the speed limit was 4 miles an hour, and somebody came past it about 8 or 9 miles an hour. I was fuming,
And did they give off a great big wash?
Massive wash all the way down the side. Yeah.
That's
exactly.
all relative.
It is, yeah. So, do you meditate besides with the horses, Catherine? You have a personal meditation practice. Do you meditate daily, or do you meditate with the horses daily?
I meditate with the horses daily.
Daily, you do. a nice place to be in when you can do that on a daily basis, you know. Unfortunately, you need a stables and horses to do that, don't you? But
actually, I don't have stables. All my work's done outside, and my horses are quite feral.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, horses anyway.
Yeah, but I check in with them every time I go. I'm up there, and I often meditate either I'm waking up or going to sleep, although I don't have as regular practice as I used to.
No, I'm actually teaching meditation tomorrow morning for the first time in I think it's about nearly 16 months since I last taught a class, and I got a phone call this week as a one-off and said, will you come? It's a special group of people and they asked me would I do it, and I said, you know what, sod it, I'll do it. So
I find that I'm doing, when I did have my sort of morning hour meditation practice, I wasn't doing the same things that I'm doing now. So what I'm doing now more of is wild swimming.
And I'm similar, I think, in that as a person I've changed a lot over the last few years, and I've gone from meditating with a short practice 20 minutes a day, then venturing from Buddhist meditation into transcendental meditation, then going into doing some very intensive retreats where I'd meditate for 6-8 hours a day, quite often in silence, and going into it to that level. Whereas now, it's not the meditation really that's fixing me, although I meditate, but my practice isn't what it should be possibly. For me, it's running. You change, and I don't think it really matters what vehicle you use. It's finding what works for you and brings you peace, isn't it?
And also just getting present.
Being present and absorbed in
exactly.
That is,
it can be any activity. It can be art. It can be walking in nature, or what do they call it now? Nature bathing, is it? Or
forest bathing.
Forest bathing, that's it,
The green.
This afternoon, because I was in the office yesterday, I spent 8 hours staring at a screen, literally. I didn't even have any lunch, I just 8 hours. Today, I made time, I just had about an hour and 20 minutes, and I just went for a walk. And I know a little trail around here where you can go, and there's brooks and streams and everything, and it fixed me.
And if you're present while you're walking, then that's a meditation. If you go to an art gallery and you look at art, then that can be a meditation. It's like with Ben when he climbs the trees and has people in the trees. You're so focused on not falling. You're present. And that's a meditation.
I found that with skydiving. You jump out of a plane, you focus on your breath.
That's why people do extreme sports, isn't it?
Of course, But
what we're trying to do as well, we're doing these new sort of pack horse picnic days where we're using the horses and we're taking food up into the fells, cooking it in the fells. Ben's going to do his tree climbing, wild swimming. He calls it the naked ape experience.
This is with the fell foodie guy, is it?
This is with Fell Foodie, who's quite popular around the Lake District. He's been on TV. He's turned his life around. He used to be an alcoholic, and now he's this adventurer. He takes people on adventures, and he cooks them beautiful gourmet meals in like on the tops of the fells and stuff. So he's come on board. He's part of the team. We've got somebody doing bushcraft as well. So it's a full-on adventure day. But at the end of it, you've got this beautiful meditation with the horses just before you come back down the fells.
What a nice way to wrap it up. Debbie, have you had your haircut since I last seen you?
I have. You definitely have. No. I decided to embrace the grey, so I've had all the brown cut out, and
wonderful. I think only certain people can do that. Can carry it off, and you can carry it off. And you pulled up in the car today, and I thought, wow, who's that with Katherine? So fantastic.
I just thought, no, now is the moment. I'm going to. It was my New Year's resolution to embrace the grey, and I thought, well, if I'm going to do it right.
I think men have less, maybe, I don't know, some men go bald and they fight it for a long time, and I think it looks ridiculous, to be honest. I just think it looks absurd. I've been bald since I was about 19, but I think at 21 I shaved my head, and I've never done anything else since, just shaved it, But women definitely, for many, many years after that, will be colouring the hair and this kind of thing. And I think the day when you said, you know what, and I find it with a lot of women that live on narrowboats seem to have embraced it sooner, and they just accept what the hair is, usually get it cut quite short, and they're okay with it, know. And I think it can look beautiful.
There's a kind of cultural it's almost like a boundary which keeps women within these kind of prisons of buying beauty products and looking younger and dyeing the hair, because what it says is what the boundary says is once you're past a certain age and you've lost your sexual validity, then you've lost your value. And you can see by
I'm knackered then.
not for men. This is more for women, and you can see but with just like presenters on TV, like all the female presenters are under 35, but the male presenters go on and on and on.
Good point. Good point.
It's something we just need to say, no, don't we? No, I'm not doing that. Not doing that.
You're right. It's a really good point. I've never even thought about that, but a lot of the male presenters go on into the 60s, even 70s, and the women generally don't.
Don't. They don't have a career once.
Especially in the old BBC, because it was a very, I don't know how to put this, but it was
misogynistic.
A very male environment, shall we say?
But also beauty products. The industry creates problems so that you buy the products. It's like at one point, I'm sure, like cellulite wasn't a problem till somebody said cellulite's a problem and you need to buy this thing to, so we're all, it's the consuming thing. We're all consuming things we don't really need to. It's healthier to embrace where you are.
I said before the start of the show, I don't think it's actually in the show, I think it was just before we started, that I had a shave immediately before doing this show, and what a mistake that was. My face just went bright red. And this is the tamed down version. I've been splashing cold water on it for about 20 minutes before you arrived, trying to get my face to cool down, because in this light it picks up everything, so So maybe tell us about events and things you've got coming up. So with Full Circle Retreats.
Okay, so we've got a photography retreat on the 5th of April. So all of the retreats are structured in the same way.
There'll be people watching this saying, I should go on that with my camera work.
So as Katherine said earlier, we start with yoga, and then we go into the horse meditation. Then we have a lovely homemade lunch, and then it's whichever creative activity that particular day involved. So the first one we've got is photography. So we've got, the one thing that we've been so blessed with is we've got all these lovely, very talented women who live locally, who are all bringing something to the retreats, and they're all coming from the same place of love and generosity of spirit. And so the first one is a fabulous lady called Julie, and she's taking the photography group. Then we've got an art day. Now that's non-guided, because when we did the one last year, people were saying, actually, I just want to be able to go and sit somewhere, choose my own space, sit down, and we don't really want a teacher telling us what we want to do. So this year we decided to do it as an unguided. Catherine's going to take them for a meditational walk before the art part of the day, and then people are just going to peel off wherever they feel like.
I thought you were going to say peel off the clothes.
Well, we can do that as well if they want.
Catherine will say, right, everybody, kids off. We're going to swim.
Well, not on that particular day.
No.
And so people can, if they want to do landscape, or they want to go in the garden, or they want to paint the hens, whatever, they can choose their place. So that'll be fantastic. Then I'm trying to think what comes after then we've got floristry. That's always a lovely one, because we plan which plants we're going to put in that'll be ready at that time of year. So they can go into the cutting garden and they can choose whatever plants they want to cut from the garden. We have a florist who comes in and teaches them the skills of making a bouquet, and then they get to take that away with them at the end of the day. So every activity is creative, and it's just we try and make either the horses or the farm the centre of the attention, so they can use the what we've got available to us.
There's only one thing for it. I need to move to the lakes.
You do.
I need to do these retreats. Yeah.
You're welcome anytime.
Well, you offered, and I will take you up on it.
Yeah,
I'll come up again.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Oh, but also we've got the 2-hour horse meditation workshops at Full Circle Retreat venue. So once a month we'll do a 2-hour horse meditation with the Clydesdales as a group.
Do they behave differently because they're a different breed of horse? Is it exactly the same? Is one type of horse more, how should we say, cooperative with the meditation, easier to meditate with, or does it not matter?
I think
I would be a little bit scared of a Clydesdale than I would a normal horse.
I think Clydesdales are naturally more gentle.
Yeah.
But
I think because of the size of the animal, it feels more remarkable because you've got this huge... I mean, when I've got videos of Katherine meditating, and an otto's head, which is this big, is like literally here on her shoulder. It's like Jurassic Park. You know, you've got this enormous head and then little Katherine underneath. So I think it just visually looks so much more. But I don't think the horses actually respond any different. I think your horses and my horses would exactly the same.
I didn't realise how big they were. I'd seen some pictures on your page. I'd had Luke, and they're very big.
They are huge.
I mean, bigger than you think.
Yeah.
They're really big.
Well, imagine police horses that you see at football matches. That's what they're like.
Yeah.
They're massive.
So for people, and especially people who are not horsey people, it's like being waterfalled into some sort of otherworldly, like you say, Jurassic Park experience, or where you've got a massive connection with this galactic monolithic creature. It's quite amazing. But I don't think that breeds of horses react differently to the meditation. I think that all horses react to that connection and stillness the same. Some horses might be more difficult to get into that space if they're traumatised.
But that's the horse, not the breed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because they're individuals, aren't they? Every horse.
If you get an ex-race horse, well, they're very traumatised horses, so it might take them months. To get there, but they will get there.
Yeah, and I think also the thing that's really important for people to realise is that the horses aren't trained to meditate. You know, like we train them to ride them, we train them to jump, we train them to do things. You don't train them to meditate. They choose to join us. And that still blows me away now that, you know, I can sit quietly and they join me. They choose. They're not on head collars. They're loose in the stable or in the field, and they choose to come and either lie down or stand or hover, or, you know, they just want the connection. And it is absolutely remarkable.
Do you have meditate with horses, Katherine? Do you have some separate events coming up from Full Circle? Do you have your own things coming up?
Yeah, so I run daily sessions, so people can book in and have a one-to-one
every
therapy
day
session. Yeah, pretty much. If people want to book a session, I can usually accommodate them, unless I've got something else on, another event on or something like this. But you can book on the website, and the sessions are open to sort of choose the days and times.
I remember when you came on the radio, a couple of things. One is I had a joke and said, swimming with dolphins, I saw yesterday, meditate with horses. Now, that's what you want to be doing, because a lot of people have swum with dolphins, although I've never done it because the only opportunity I've had to do it has been in captivity, and we didn't want to do it. But also when you came on the radio, I remember on that day, I think you were running late, and it was because there was a young child that had come to meditate with the horses he had a brain tumour, is that right? Yeah, sadly he's died. Right. But he had a wonderful connection with Eddie. He sort of sat on his back. He said on that day it was an amazing day.
He laid on his back and sat on his back, and he really relaxed. But he'd been ill a long time, bless him.
I think you could take solace in doing that, as he approaches the transition, that he had a beautiful day, and you were the catalyst for that. So there's a very positive aspect to that.
And it's always really, really hard to see children that are ill and that are not going to be with us that long. And Blade was only with us till he was 6, bless him. So, but I feel privileged to have had that time with him. So we do the one-to-one therapy sessions. We're doing these pack horse picnic days, the adventure days, so one a month. And we are running retreats as well, so 2-day retreats from Full Circle yurts.
No relation.
Different.
Oh, right, you've blown my mind. That's going to get confusing. Were they named independently before you?
Yes.
Weird.
Yeah,
weird.
I know, right? So this is where Ben owns some yurts and cabins, Scandinavian cabins, in Rydal. Beautiful, beautiful location. And so we'll be running some adventure things from up there, and there's the lovely accommodation, the sort of cosy cabins to stay in. So we'll be doing that over the next couple of years.
There's going to be, I'm waiting for it in about a year's time, and Full Circle yurts will buy out hands on heavy horses, and then there'll be a Full Circle retreat with meditate with horses. Oh, it's confusing. Yeah. So, Katherine, are you're still the founder of the Happiness Hub? That's still up and running at the minute. Now, that venue is, where is it?
It's in Bentham, in High Bentham.
That's where I came to, isn't it? Where you did the Evolution Day, is that right?
Yeah, the Personal Evolution Day.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful venue. So I'll be running retreats from there also, horse connection retreats and yoga retreats.
And you did a gong month at the end of the last one. Andre did it, didn't they?
That's right. Graham and Andre. And so all different types of lovely therapies. Plus there's a river for wild swimming. There's saunas and hot tubs. And it's wonderful. There's an edible walk, so you can go foraging. There's a wildflower meadow. It's really lovely, and we hire that out as well for yoga teachers or whoever, corporate events or anybody that wants to go and have that lovely venue to do their retreats. There's a big yoga studio. So that's part of the Happiness Hub concept, but the Happiness Hub is basically a collective name for all these lovely retreats and workshops and things I'm doing with Debbie as well, and Sunnybrow Farm, which is in Hawkshead where my horses now are.
Right. Do you... I don't know as much about your story, Debbie.
No.
Because we haven't done the radio, but do you have a meditation practice?
I do.
You do? Do you meditate every day?
I struggle to find a time in my day when I wouldn't get interrupted. So I have to confess, I now run a bath. I say I'm disappearing off for half an hour.
Do you meditate with a glass of wine by any chance?
No. Well, that would be nice. I didn't know. So what I do is I run a bath, and while that's running, I have a 20-minute meditation because I know I won't get interrupted. The phone won't ring. So I've learned that is my only sort of opportunity in my day. But I do also meditate with my horses, not every day, maybe 3 times a week.
And are you meditating in the evening then if you're in the bath and stuff?
Yeah.
And is it a Buddhist meditation? Is it transcendental meditation? Is it just...
It's just my own version.
Right.
Whatever I feel I need to do. I have this, I don't know if it's an unusual thing, but what I do is I have this little platform that I go to, and it has all these doors, and every door is a different colour. And I stand there and I think, now, which door do I need to go through today? And if I feel I really need to just touch base within a child, I go to the red door. And if I need to go and see my mum, then I go through a yellow door and there's sunflowers and she's sitting. And I imagine her when she was about 50 years old and she was beautiful with blonde hair.
Is your mum still with us?
Yes, she's 89.
Yeah, right.
And so I have all these sort of like little rooms that I go to depending on what I feel. And I just stand there and ask the question, where do I need to go right now? That's where I need to be. That's what I need to look at today. So that's how I do it. Yeah. And I've just sort of come up with this sort of little routine.
I find myself, although initially it was all Buddhist meditation, and then I did transcendental meditation because I was curious. I wanted to learn about that too, and I felt like my Buddhist meditation had plateaued, and this sort of cleared some energy. I don't know, just made space, and everything seemed to sort of move forward again. But I generally find that although those practices are separate, I do my own thing as well. I sort of have a version of things, and it's actually some of it's quite personal as well, how you do it. Like, you're discussing the spaces that you go to and the places, but I think it is whatever, isn't it? Whatever works for you.
I practiced Buddhist meditation for a while, and I've done the silent retreat thing. It was wonderful. And I had this wonderful meditation practice where every morning when I woke up, I would listen to the birds and the river outside, and then I would focus on the silence in between. So I would meditate on nothing, and the space and the silence on nothing, and that was a beautiful practice. And I think sort of the next step for me is doing shadow work. So the next retreat that I'm going on, which is on my birthday in a couple of weeks, is a shadow work retreat called Celebration of Being.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like using mantra, and although transcendental meditation using mantra internally, external mantra I find if I can't meditate for some reason and I just get busy with my own mani padme hum and thrash that out about 1,000 times, at the end of it I can shift whatever's troubling me. So it seems to be, if I'm really struggling, I go with external repetitive chanted mantra.
Well, we use nature and sound, don't we, with the horses? We use nature, we use sound, we use smells, we use whatever we can.
But I say that
tap into,
every night, and I've done this for a long time now.
Yeah.
When I go to bed, I have quite an expensive Bluetooth speaker, and I go on YouTube or wherever I am, and I get some beautiful, usually nature sounds, and it's waves or birds singing or whatever, and that's how I go to sleep every night. And without that, just listening to the silence, I love that. Now, I don't know if you'd call it even a meditation, but it's how I like to enter into the realm of sleep, you know, with some beautiful sounds of nature, ideally. Yeah. So we're coming towards the end of the show now, ladies, and a couple of last things I want to touch on if we can. One was, Katherine, I remember seeing some videos of you on social media, and I'm a big fan of Tom Kenyon, and he sings and connects with Spirit and Mary Magdalene and all sorts of things. Beautiful man if you read his story, and he's had some amazing experiences, but he sings in caves as well. And you were doing this, weren't you?
Yeah.
In the lakes, weren't you?
Yeah. Particularly in a cave at Rydal, up at Rydal Caves, where we live. So Ben and I have been going up there and just singing and just getting a feel of the acoustics and the song being kind of echoed back at you, and it's just a really peaceful and lovely thing to do. So
I'd listened to it over and over. I'd listened to it a number of times, and I think it's maybe because of the acoustics as well in the cave and everything. But
and also
beautiful.
The sound of the water. So there's a lot of water sounds in caves as well, dripping and. It's just I think we're born to love the sound of water. It makes you feel musical. So and sitting in that dark space as well, where you feel it's you're entering sort of a very private space, and then you can just let this sort of song emerge. So I really enjoy that. I think it is a very spiritual thing to do. But we did something recently, which was almost psychedelic experience. So we went deeper into the cave where it was pitch black, you couldn't see a thing, and there was Ben and I, and also some friends, their children, my children, so there was quite a few of us, and we all took musical instruments, and we just thrashed and banged and popped and clanged and bonged and pinged and sang and shouted and just made a right racket for about an hour until we sort of, it was almost like shamanic, and we'd entered this almost psychedelic meditative state. It was quite beautiful.
I think people sometimes forget the power of sound waves, the spoken word, the explanation of how gongs work. When you hit this gong and it vibrates and you can feel the sound waves rather than just hear it, you can feel it, and it penetrates you and it resonates with different parts of your body, and it can release trapped energies. That I've been to gong baths where people have been struggling with things for years. They can't shift it. They've tried everything, meditation, yoga, everything, and there's some past trauma troubling them. Sometimes you don't even know what it is, but there's something bothering you. You go to a gong bath, and at the end there's tears, and they feel this release, and it's gone, and it's because they'll knock it out of you with the gongs.
Well, I've had some quite profound visions at gong baths. I don't know what happens to me at gong baths, but I've been arguing with planets, like these big booming authoritarian planets, and all kinds of crazy.
I find there's I have a wrestling match that goes on initially, and I can't let go, and and eventually, once I let go, then that's the start of my journey, and it can be a very deep, beautiful experience on a gong bath, if you let it out. I did 2 back-to-back at the Chettam Farm retreat, and they say I'm the only person ever to do that, and I survived.
But you were gonged.
I couldn't. I was in space when I left. I didn't know what was happening. I certainly couldn't drive straight away afterwards.
I do think it takes you out of the realm of as being where we are in terms of size and on the planet. So we're the size of a human, and that's a tree, and we live in a house. It really kind of sucks you right into the cosmos, and I think that's where I have these sort of planetary visions. And
I can lose, for a brief while, concept of self when I'm in a gong bath, and I'm just immersed in sound. It's beautiful experience.
Well, one technique that we use when we do the workshops, the Clydesdale 2-hour workshops, is just to do a beautiful guided meditation. I think people love that. We take them on a journey.
It is nice, isn't it?
We go underground. We go
Somebody
to all kinds
takes you
of places.
to this magical place, and it is nice to be guided, isn't it?
It is, and they're sat on straw bales and they're wrapped in blankets, and it's really lovely.
With Buddhist meditation, all meditation's guided at first because you need instruction. Once you've had that, then the instruction's less, and quite often then you can do a long session, and they just give you some guidelines, if you will, like if you're doing the 21 Lamrim. And then eventually there's no, it's unguided. You just basically plonked and left to it, and it's very nice to have a guided meditation, isn't it? It's like a treat.
Yeah. It's such a treat. It's like being read a story as a child, really,
exactly,
isn't it? Because you could go on this journey. When I did my silent retreat up at the Danacotia in Scotland, up in the Trossachs, our guide used a lot of poetry as inspiration. So she kept reading poems, and it was beautiful. And then there would be 6 hours of meditation in silence, and then more poems, and then maybe a walking meditation and silence. But I found that after 3 days of that, I was writing poetry. It was just pouring out of me.
Do you know what placement meditation is? Do you know how that works?
Go on.
With Buddhist meditation, you'll start off and they have what they call the preliminaries, and this is focus on your breath, and then black smoke, white smoke, and then imagining clouds drifting past as mindfulness, and these techniques. Then you go into what you call placement meditation, and you'll use a certain piece of Buddhist text, and you'll read it, and it generates a feeling, or you might have an epiphany, like, And when you get that, you grab hold of that, and you single-pointedly focus on that. Very, very, very difficult to do if you're not in a controlled Buddhist retreat. If you try and do it in your everyday life, very difficult. And each time you'll go, and as soon as you've lost it, you've got to go right back to the start and repeat everything that you've been told, either reading the text or reciting something. Get back to that sensation, you go, and you've got to start again, and it can be really difficult.
It takes you to that place of beauty that opens you up. But I think we absolutely need this spiritual language and these metaphors, because metaphors are very liquid, and we can take that liquid and we can swallow it, and it can travel around us, and we can make it part of us, and then we can kind of integrate it, and then it can emerge as something beautiful from us. And that's the thing about spiritual language. And really, when we're at school, we're given either religion or science as a choice. But science is a truth, and religion is a metaphor. And really, we should be given both, so that we can use the metaphors when we need them, and the code of ethics to help each other and to help the planet. But also, the science is really important too, to be participants in the universe properly.
Happy Class, which you I write about the fact that in schools, and it's not part of the syllabus to teach people correct thought, good mental health, learning how to manage anxiety and stress. These things aren't on the syllabus.
No.
These are the most important life lessons you could possibly learn.
So what people have got is
Children don't get them.
ancient and limited religions to choose from.
What we're going to teach you, we're going to teach you about computers, and we're going to teach you about science and history, which a lot of it's irrelevant anyway, and a lot of it's lies. But we're going to teach you all this stuff so you can go out and earn as much money as you can, and then realise that actually that's not going to make you happy, but it's too late because you've got yourself in debt, because you've got a big house and a big car, and then you're unhappy and miserable, so you get a cocaine habit, and then you end up having a heart attack and maybe taking your own life, and it's all wrong. All of it. We're getting pushed down this channel, and what we should be saying is, what makes you happy?
Yeah.
What makes you happy?
Actually,
and if it's not harming anybody else, and especially if it's benefiting other people, then do that. And then if money will come, success will follow, because
happy people are productive people.
Yeah, you learn better when you're
what
happy.
schools and colleges are actually doing now is asking the corporations what they want. What kind of sausages would you like us to produce? What is it you're looking for? What do you need? What kind of person? What kind of product? What do you place value in? And then the colleges or the universities are producing these for the corporates, for the economy.
It's the same with all research as well. But unfortunately, nearly all research, especially if it's into pharmaceuticals and the benefits of medicinal benefits of plants and all this kind of anything like that, it's all funded by the the chemical companies, or like AstraZeneca or whoever. They fund the research so that the research is channeled into finding what they're looking for, not what we need necessarily. It's a vicious circle, I suppose, isn't it? So when we went to Manjushri, Debbie? Was that your first time at Manjushri?
It was, yeah.
See, I find that incredible because
I know it won't be the last, though. I loved it.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Absolutely beautiful, yeah.
Because it's on your doorstep.
Yeah.
Really, it's not that far away, and I feel it's like palpable peace. As soon as I get there, it's relaxed. And then you've got the beach and the cake and the temple.
Don't forget, I live on a farm, so I have got a lot of tranquility and peace all around. But I agree, it really does focus your mind to just chill there, doesn't it? It's just so beautiful.
When I first went there, in my mind, I thought, I've got I'm going to swear, a shit car. My job, I hate my job and things weren't going well, my relationship wasn't great or whatever, all these problems. And then I was there for a few days surrounded by beautiful people. Nobody had any ulterior motives.
Judgment.
And I had contrast because my energy was different than everybody else's. So you become very aware of yourself. And I thought, oh shit, it's me. I'm the problem. And you have this realization. And at first I just wanted to leave because I felt so uncomfortable. And the best thing I ever did, and the reason why I'm still alive today, is that I stayed one more night, because then things started to unfold, and that was the beginning of a journey for me, So ladies, if somebody wants to go to do a retreat and wants to do hands on heavy horses, or go and do a full circle retreat, or wants to go to meditate with horses and meditate with yourself, Katherine, let's tell them how to do that. So we'll start with you, Debbie.
Okay, so if you wanted to come to a full circle retreat, the best thing to do would be to look at the website, because all the images and all the information about each individual retreat is on there. So that would be www.fullcircleretreats.co.uk.
Okay. And then that would be a corridor into various social media channels and everything else via the website.
Instagram, Facebook, all on there. Absolutely.
Okay, so full circle retreats.
Yes.
Not full circle years.
No. No. Fullcircleretreats.co.uk.
Yeah, well, just teasing. Catherine, if somebody wants to come and meditate with horses, I know they can do that as part of a retreat at Full Circle Retreats. But also, if they just wanted to meditate with horses, how would they get in touch with yourself?
So I have a website. It's www.happiness.hub.uk.
Okay.
Not a code, just .uk.
.uk.
And that's got all the information about Sunnybrow Farm, which is the holistic farm where the horses are. People can have a look at their brochure. They've got accommodation as well, and a full brochure of therapies, and that's where my horses are for the one-to-one sessions. I'm on Facebook as Meditate with Horses, so just at Meditate with Horses on Facebook.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
It's been wonderful. I'm really lucky. I think the viewers are going to really enjoy this show. It's very interesting, and I know you've come a long way, so I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
You can get my first book, From Pills to Peace, on Amazon and in about 12 other places. The audio book, by the time you watch this, will be on ACX, Amazon and Audible. Book 2 is about 6 weeks off, and that's Moving Forward, Learning How to Glide, and that's elevating yourself and propelling yourself forward using surrounding energies with zero resistance, with zero effort, in harmony with natural law. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. You can also go to the website, midnightmcbride.com. And obviously, you're watching this program on the YouTube channel, Midnight McBride. And if you subscribe to this channel, there'll be a new show every week. And thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the show. See you next time.
One day my horse had enough and just flipped over and sat on me and broke my pelvis in 4 places, and I ended up not being able to walk or ride for quite a long time. I decided to start sitting in the paddocks and meditating with them as a way of spending time with the horses. And then I noticed their behaviour really change around me. It was very transformative. It completely changed me and changed my life.
It's a really good way to train your animals. So if you want to teach your animal something but they're anxious and they're nervous, they're not going to listen because they've got too much stuff going on. So by meditating with them and getting them into a very peaceful, relaxed state, they're then calm enough to listen. The intention really is to bring people back to our connection with animals, with the planet.